So today is a day that I have been waiting for. To be honest, I've been waiting for a little while on this one. I've really wanted to do the review on this vehicle for a while now, and today it finally comes to fruition. So this is the 2023 Toyota bZ4X all-electric SUV, right? Small SUV. And today we're going to go deep dive into this guy. And I will say this, you are going to get this video from the perspective of a Tesla EV owner. So some of the things I'm going to say are coming from, well, some love, but at the same time, looking at it from that perspective. I'm going to try to keep my own mind open as much as possible, but let's dive in. So today, like I said, 2023 Toyota bZ4X. Now this is an electric vehicle that's quite a bit different than what I'm used to. It takes the future of what electric vehicles are and will be, and pairs it with that traditional Toyota hybrid feel. That's the best way I can describe it. In that the heads-up display that we're seeing, the infotainment center, everything is coming from Toyota's most up-to-date version of their electronics, coupled with what feels like came from the Prius, or I should say the battery electric hybrids, for the driver's display as well. Now that said, I really dislike the steering column altogether. I think it's one of those things that really just doesn't work nearly as well as they, I think, anticipated it being. And the shape looks futuristic, but actually takes away from the experience of the car. So that's the big thing I have about this one. And I'm going to go into this in detail and show you everything that's up front here. It's front-wheel drive. A lot of electric cars anymore are all-wheel drive. Some are rear-wheel drive, some are front-wheel drive. This is a front-wheel drive version that I have here for review. And I'm not going to say too much about that other than it's front-wheel drive, it's not all-wheel drive. So when you slam on it, because of the high torque that an EV has, you can get a little loss of traction. Nothing crazy at all. I'm not going to hold that against it because it's a front-wheel drive vehicle. It's similar to any front-wheel drive vehicle, especially when you put enough power in it. Now, it has a single 150 kilowatt motor in it, and the thing that I would say is maybe the slight drawback on this car probably comes down to charging. Now, Toyota kind of, I think, designed the system, from everything that I can see, for longevity, making the battery last as long as possible. And usually when you do that, you're going to try to restrict how fast the battery can charge. Everybody pretty much knows that if you charge a battery at those super fast rates all the time, you will get battery degradation. And it doesn't matter what brand you have. That's just the truth of fast charging. The battery heats up. Heat is an enemy. So there's a lot of things going into that. However, it seems as though, from my testing, but also people that I've known and I've talked to other people, this vehicle just doesn't charge super fast. You're not going to be jumping up to a fast charger with a pretty well depleted battery and being back on the road within 30-40 minutes. That's not going to really happen. Now, I am going to say that most time you're going to be fine, but it's those long trips that you may be taking across a very long journey. Now, this vehicle also doesn't have the range that some of the EVs have, right? This one's sitting at, I think, listed about 220 miles of range. You're not going to get that, and doesn't matter what EV you own. When they tell you how many miles the vehicle has the capability of, unless you are Johnny on the spot driving on flat ground going 45 miles an hour, you are not going to get that at 70 degrees Fahrenheit. You're not going to get it because you're running the air conditioner, you're running the heat, or your seat warmers or whatever. You're going up hills, you're going all over the place, and you're not driving at 45, you're driving at maybe 70. So you're just not going to see those ranges. In this case, with the 220, when I had charged it all the way up, the computer actually told me to just about 202 miles. Now that can change depending on a whole bunch of different things, but the problem with this specific vehicle is I don't see a whole lot more in depth into what the computer is thinking and how it's actually calculating the range. So for instance, in my Tesla, it tells me the range based on the battery, based on the calculated methods that the MPGe would give it. But then I have another system that'll tell me based on my driving habits, based on how fast I'm going, based on what whatever the wind is doing to my vehicle, here's the range you can expect. I love that. I love not knowing, not just going off the factory default miles per gallon or basically, equivalent battery range on this vehicle. I want to know based on what I'm doing, how far am I going to be able to get? Now there is a way to see how, efficient you're being in this, basically a miles per kilowatt hour, but even that is kind of rudimentary. It's just giving you a number. And it's not an instant number, it's a total average. Now you can reset that at any time, but it's just one of those things. So like every vehicle, we're going to start on the outside. We're going to go around the vehicle real quick, show you the outside. I like the outside styling. It looks good. I'll give it that. Then we'll jump into the interior. We'll just kind of go over the interior. Then this is an EV, so electronics are key in all regard. So we are going to spend a little bit of time on the electronics after we do the full interior tour. So if you're watching, you want to skip ahead, by all means. But we're going to go outside, inside, and then stand and go through the electronics a little more in depth than I have been doing lately in some of the gas cars. So here we go. Okay, I apologize for any wind, but it is a little windy. Right now I still have the vehicle technically in the on position, so you're hearing the air handling system because it is a little cool out. But we're going to start around on the front. I really like the angular system here, but also you can kind of see these scoops on both sides. Kind of a cool little angular piece. Looks really neat. The headlights, I really like the headlights with this kind of eyebrow kind of thing. Now up front, here's where the charging port is. They do put the nice covers on this rather than the pull out like rubberized ones. These aren't too bad. They stay on, they're nice hinged doors. I don't mind those. I don't see, again, if this door works decent, this should not be necessary, but it is what it is. This does not have a 360 camera, so there's no other cameras around here other than the reverse camera. Backside also, to be honest, very angular, very nice looking. Very Toyota-ish, to be honest about it. Nice bZ4X. Now, here's the other thing, right? bZ4X. The name is, I'm not a fan. Definitely was looking forward to doing this vehicle. I'm not a big fan of the name. But that's the tour around the outside. Two-tone, the red and the kind of charcoal looks really good. But let's get inside. Okay, our standard traditional entry. And we'll close it up here. Okay, so let's go through the interior. We'll come back to the full electronic tour here in a short bit. Your traditional door controls, windows, door locks, automatic headlights on this specific version that I have. Steering wheel column here. I'm going to get into this more in depth, but it is a very busy steering wheel. We have our driver's heads-up display here, the information for the driver. Then we have the nice large widescreen display for the radio and vehicle settings. We have our traditional kind of climate system. I will say that the volume up and down buttons I'm not a fan of, and I wish there was a knob. And same thing with the temperature controls. Very simplistic, but it works. Big power button. Here's our trip odometer and stuff settings here that we can reset and change. We do have, now this vehicle does not have one pedal driving, but it does have this regenerative braking mode that you do have to push on every time you want to use it. So every time you turn off the vehicle and you turn it back on, if you want to keep using this, you have to hit it again. So I don't like that. If you maybe turn it on so it's always on, but at the same time, it drags more even when you're just standard driving, so it's probably not something you want to use all the time. Eco mode, snow mode, traction control off button, and then we have our big gear selector lever, and this is basically I'll put the brake on, you push it down and then turn it. You can see we went to drive, push down, turn to the left, now we're in reverse. Button here for that. If we just go into neutral, we just push down and just right back up, right? So that's how you use the gear selector lever. Again, I've said this on other vehicles. It's a pretty big thing for something that you only use at the beginning or end of your drive usually. I wish that they would figure out a way to make this more compact and take up less space. Because if you took up less space here, you'd have more space for other things down here. So, you know, that's a big thing for me. This center console is really massive for what it actually has in it. Now, there is this, and this is a waste of space in my opinion. This big door is for wirelessly charging your phone. That is it. There's a USB port here, so if you're going to use wired CarPlay or something like that, you can do that. But this vehicle is supportive of wireless CarPlay. So there is that, but that is a massive area that's just taken up by that you could really have done a much larger cup holder area with maybe an integrated, maybe a slide-in phone that kind of goes underneath this area. So there's a lot more things you could do with this other than this gigantic block. We have 2 cup holders down here, and then you can see a little where I'm using for my sunglass holder. And then, so then on the armrest here, there is a lever down here we can pick up, and then we have a little cubby. Now this cubby is actually 2 depth. So you have a bin, you can take that out, and then we have, I didn't even look at the gloves and stuff in here, but deeper bin that is underneath it. You know, it's the nice thing is you can put the stuff down below that's you don't regularly access, and then stuff on top that you do. So that is nice at least. That said, what we usually would do now is show the glove box. There is no glove box. There's some things in this vehicle I don't think are done right. One, cloth top up here. I love this. This is great. It actually, I think it helps with the noise a little less echoey in here, but it looks good, and I don't get glare off it. That said, this, as you can see, is glary as heck. Several times while I was driving, when the sun was on the right spot and it was just bouncing right into my face, this was something I would really wish they would change. Take this glossy stuff off, put something matte in. It's way too much glossy area for specifically when the sun's hitting just right. When it's hitting just right, it is terrible. It's almost a safety hazard. So I don't like that. Love the dash. But as we're going up here, this whole thing is terrible. I don't like this. This is really tall. If you can see where my head is, that's actually sticking up above the hood line. So I actually have to get up above to look down the hood. So here's my camera view. As you can also see how they did this gigantic steering wheel thing, this big long, where they put the steering wheel. This is what I see when I'm driving on the road, like this. So this steering wheel is literally blocking half this. In order to get it better, I have to bring the steering wheel all the way down. But now it's really low, so getting in and out of the car, it's a bit trickier. I would not drive with the steering wheel this low. I would drive with it right about here. That's where I put it. But now it's actually blocking my infotainment center, which typically that would be, you'd be looking at that through the steering wheel a lot of times. So this whole system right here, I think is very, very poorly designed. I can't wait to see what they do if they actually change this up eventually. But this, I don't think is right. And I would like to have more information, more customizable information there if I'm going to be looking up there all the time. That's just me, I guess. But it does give you everything you need to know, right? Your speed, your energy level. They're just going to give it there. Here's your range technically in miles. And then your actual efficiency currently, and then you can hold okay here to reset that. So, and like I said, we'll get into more of this here shortly. Also, it does have a moonroof kind of, right? So we'll open it here. So it is actually a continuous piece of glass with this support bar that goes in between. I understand why they need it, but yeah, it does have a nice little amount of light that comes in through the roof when you need it. Otherwise, we do have our lights, LED lights, and then we can turn on our door and our dome lights. Otherwise, that's all that's going to be up here really for us. And the SOS button, I guess. Oh, I didn't show the under cubby. This under section here for more storage, some USB ports, power, your standard 12 volt. Hard to get to. Specifically, if you're driving, you're not going to get to this very easily. So this is going to be stuff that you're going to store while you're driving that you're not going to access because it's just not easily accessible. But that said, let's go to the back. Okay, let's go in the back. And so you can see here, fairly decent sized seat here. Plenty of legroom. Seats back pretty far, but I have plenty of legroom as a 5'11" person. 2 USB-C charging ports. I do have my vents here. I can't control anything back here, but then this doesn't really have rear control. Not that that's a big deal. Sorry about that. I'll brighten it up. Other than that, basic, right? Nothing too fancy here. To be honest, what you expect in a back seat. They do have some sliding cubbies there. Otherwise, the rest is going to be in the back. There are, as normal here, nice standard cup holders, and then also what I would call device holders. A device holder, I guess. Pretty solid, works good. And that is the back seat in the bZ4X. Let's look at the trunk. Okay, now this does not have a power hatch. I do have to lift. And we have a good amount of storage. Now we'll go into this. I'll actually get out the suitcases. We'll see how many we can actually fit in here. It does have a cover that you can put it over it, and that is removable, as they always are. This one, it came with a nice carpet, but it also has a lift-up thing where the charger is stored, but you have a little bin. Not a very big bin. I would expect it bigger, more room down underneath the sub-trunk, but not. So that is something to say. But storage area, good. Also, if you need to flip the seats down, you just lift the lever, seat goes down, and then you have, the full flatbed area. I'll show you under the hood. Okay, so we have our hood switch here. Click on that. Of course, the vehicle's on. I'm going to do this one-handed, and it does not have shocks, but the reason why, there's your hood. No frunk. All the goodies up here for everything. In all reality, a lot of what could be other used space. Obviously, things aren't as compact as they are in some other vehicles, but that's just something to say, right? But there it is. Okay, first up, I wanted to talk about the driver's display here. What we are going to use when we're going through this is on the steering wheel here, we are going to use this directional pad as well as this back arrow, kind of pages arrow. And on here, we can actually see all the goodies. So if I actually kind of hit that pages button, we can actually bring it away or bring the information out. Now on the directional pad, I can go through different settings, right? And you can actually see on the bottom, I have to go back down one, there are multiple pages on this. So if I go left, I can get to the adaptive cruise control information. Same thing with audio. Right now I have it off. It would tell you the audio information. I can go into trip mode, see all the trip stuff. To be honest, this is something you'll see on on most Toyota vehicles, right? You can see what's on, what's off in terms of parking sensors and the lane control and things like that, if there's messages. And then in the eco setting, this is what you're going to see. It reminds me a lot of their hybrid vehicles. It really does. Just tells you, there'll be a little green bar that'll kind of go back and forth as you're driving, telling you how green or how efficient you are at driving, and then it gives you that total average. And then over here, you just see the speed, and you'll see your obviously your battery meter and things like that. And then if these will light up depending on if it detects landlines, things like that. Very simplistic. To be honest, it works really good. It doesn't matter what the lighting is outside. It's a beautiful display. It works fantastic. So I am going to absolutely agree with that part. That said, I'm not a huge fan of it. I wish there was more information specifically here because this is information that I'm not going to get so much on the radio side. And then if we come back down to the steering wheel, there are so many buttons on this steering wheel that it gets too much. They'll lock out this display when you start driving because they don't want you to be messing with the display. And I really don't like that when that happens on vehicles. I really don't. But dear Lord, look how many buttons are on this thing. That's too many buttons. I'm sorry. Just too many buttons. And yeah, I think they could clean this up quite a bit. So that's just me. Now it's been a while since we've looked at one of these displays from Toyota as well. So let's go through this. So right now on the left-hand side is where the modes are. We have, since I am connected with my phone via Bluetooth with my iPhone and I enabled wireless CarPlay. I am just wirelessly attached, but I can click on the CarPlay symbol and there's CarPlay. And then I can always click on the Toyota app to go back. This is your navigation. This does have, in-vehicle navigation. There it is. I can go to the audio. Now in here, let me enable audio, I guess. I may have to turn the volume down. Yeah, there we go. So you can see FM, AM, Sirius XM, favorites, things like that. And if I hit this power button, it'll turn the radio off. So that's what I have right now, just so I don't do that. Phone, you can see the phone, my contacts right here. And you can go through your phone. Because I have my iPhone connected, that's why it's there. If my phone wasn't connected, it would go into a generic screen. And I can show you that real quick. So now with my phone disconnected, I can go to phone, and then you can actually see there are no currently connected devices, and you can connect a device. Then if I go to my vehicle, this is where you can actually get information, so trip information. You can see just kind of your current history, simple stuff though. It's not going to give you a lot of stuff. So trip range, 105 miles is what it's telling you. Whether or not that actually is calculated, it's really hard to tell, to be honest. I don't know if it actually is. I think it might just be calculated based on what the vehicle is based at. I'd like to see more information that I can actually see at any given time. Expected range at current driving level, I guess is probably the best way to say it. That's what I'd like to see. Let's go back to here. So charging schedule, here's where you can actually add in a schedule for your charging. This, in the trunk when we actually looked in there, it does come with a level 1 charger, which to be honest is going to be fine as long as you're not driving very far daily. So if your daily driving is less than, say, 50 miles, I think you're going to be fine using a level 1. 90% of people are going to probably want to get a level 2 put in their garage. And then it doesn't really matter what you do. You're going to be able to charge full overnight, every night if you'd like. And then you can change depending on if there's certain electricity rates breaks at a certain time, or maybe you have solar and you don't want to charge at night, you want to charge during the day, so you're charging off your solar. You can do all that right here within the charging schedule. Vehicle alerts, if there's alerts, that's going to come up there. And then let's go down to the settings. This is where we're going to have a lot more settings. Personal information, Bluetooth devices, where we can actually see all the Bluetooth devices that are connected to this vehicle are authorized. General settings, accessibility, keyboard. This is going to be your standard settings you're going to see on basically all vehicles. Wi-Fi, display, sound and media, navigation, all these things that I'm not going to go super in depth in because they're standard settings. Vehicle customization settings though, we can change our light settings, door access, charging, all these things that you're standard. Now, the one thing that I have not been able to figure out if there is a way to do, and I'd love to know if there is, I'm going to put the brake on. If I go into reverse, we're going to get some nice tones. Now, the tones is what I'm talking about, not the electric motor hum, which I will say this Toyota has that standard Toyota pretty loud noise that it's not a big thing. It is what it is. It's just going in reverse. But the tones kind of drives me crazy. And then I put it in park, and that'll go away. But yeah, that is the standard stuff within the radio itself. Not bad. This is obviously something that came directly out of a non-EV, and they just added in another page essentially for the EV system. It's probably the same page that they would use for their hybrids or something similar, right? But that's it. That's our Toyota electronics. So I thought I would just open the window, put the standard microphone on so I can actually show, I guess, what it sounds like in reverse. And that's what it sounds like in reverse from the outside of the vehicle. Obviously you can hear the tones too because the window's open. But that's what she sounds like. Okay, so we are in the back here. We're going to do our luggage test. And obviously you could say this is a 5-seated vehicle, right? Because you do have 5 seats. Yeah, not 5 adults, but these are all carry-on sizes, as I traditionally do. And from what I can see, you can easily get, you could get six carry-on bags and still be able to cover them so you couldn't actually see what was underneath here. And you still have room above it for maybe a backpack or something, or in the corners, because in the corners there's actually deep back in the corner on both sides. 6. I would argue 6. Now, how many could I get in here aside from that? I could probably get 8, probably 8. And that'd be popping this out. That way I could actually put them back here. 6 to 8. There we go. So that is our little look into the Toyota bZ4X. It's one of those vehicles I really was looking forward to. I really was. And to be honest, I know I was really critical on it. I really am. Not a terrible vehicle. It really isn't. It's a good vehicle. But it's just these little things that kind of drive me crazy. And to be honest, my biggest gripe is with the driver system, the driver info system, and the steering column itself. It's just the steering column and where the information is at is just in a bad spot. I don't like how it bumps up above the actual hood line, so it's actually taking away from my view. I don't like that, and that's, I think, the biggest thing. Is this could have been designed so much better, and I think that's what my gripe is. It just could have been designed way better. It drives really good. It's a Toyota vehicle. It's quiet. You can tell the fit and finish is better than my Tesla. It is a solid vehicle with these little things that are like, why? Like, why doesn't it have a glove box? I don't understand it. I can understand why it doesn't have a frunk, although at the same time, I think you could have put one in there. I can understand maybe why the sub truck isn't as deep. Obviously, if you went deeper anyway, you'd probably get a little bit more noise in the cabin. But that said, why is this like this? Why is why isn't there a glove box? Why is this wireless charger, which again has the same Toyota problems it does with MagSafe than all of the other Toyotas do, so it just doesn't work. So the Qi charger on this specific Toyota is actually working a little bit better than my other ones. I have had my phone in there a few times where it didn't seem to grab, but right now where my phone is at, it's not turning off like the older Toyota vehicles used to with the MagSafe case. The MagSafe case is the big thing. It kills a lot of wireless chargers, or I should say just turns them off because they think they're charging something that shouldn't be charged with that extra magnet in there. But right now, at least this one seems to be working fine. Why is this taking up so much room out of my center console? And why is the center console so massive with basically an inability to get to the things when I really want to get to them while I'm in the vehicle? I kind of have to step out of the vehicle to really utilize it. So that's my gripes. I think that they have some things to go back to the drawing board on. I really do. But in terms of drivability, comfort, it's a Toyota. So if you like Toyotas, and it's got plenty of power, it's an electric, it's a front wheel drive electric, so it is what it is. It's not going to win any 0 to 60 contests, really, in terms of electric vehicles, but it's comfortable, it drives good. So it's like, I really want to love it, but I like it. I don't love it. There are things that need to change. And depending, like I said, coming back to the driver system, depending on how you hold your hand, right now where my hand is, because I put my hand on the top of the steering wheel, I can't see a thing on it. Not a thing. It's kind of terrible. So, Toyota, if you listen to this one at all, you got 80% of this vehicle right and 20% of it wrong. Not 20% of it, no. 20% of this vehicle is just wrong. It's just wrong. Thankfully, it's the 20% that isn't as critical, right? You got everything else going good. So that is my take on the Toyota bZ4X. I can't wait to see where they go. And I think, in all reality, I think this vehicle came out of a division of Toyota that they just don't have the heart in the EVs as some of the other companies do. And it's pretty obvious. But now that they have a new CEO and role and everything, we'll see where they're going to go. And I'm really interested to see where they take it, because Like I've talked to many other people about EVs before, in order to get the masses to change to EVs, you really got to bring in the similarity of what they currently drive, what they're expecting to drive, with the technology and the efficiency and everything of being an electric car. But majority of people that are still buying electric cars are not your everyday drivers, everyday purchasers. People that are the early adopters are looking for really cool, awesome, neat features. It's why Tesla has done as good as it has. In all reality, I'm not joking. I think this is why the F-150 Lightning probably isn't doing as good as it is, because, or as it could be, because it's an F-150 with nothing too crazy about it. It's electric, great. I'm not looking for that. I'm looking for something really neat and that stands out when I'm looking for an electric car. And I think this almost hit it, but not. It's just missing that special thing. I think they tried maybe to do it with this driver system, but it could have been done better. So I'm not going to gripe anymore. I do like the drive. So thank you, Toyota, for allowing me to take a peek at this car. There's a lot of things I like. Obviously, there's some things that I don't. So that said, thanks for watching, guys, and we'll catch you back here on techgooch for more future video reviews. I will have more electric cars coming up in the future, and I will have more gas-powered cars. I'm kind of bouncing back and forth, whatever I can get, whatever I can showcase, especially things that kind of pop and pertain to me or things that I'm interested in. My next one is another Lexus. I think it's an RX 350, so if you want to see that, great. Otherwise, thanks for watching. We'll catch you back here on techgooch for another future video. See you soon.